Welcome to Joe's Tutorial Part 4, tailored for the Live from Studio B video project at Holyoke Community College. We just finished syncing up our cameras and everything looks good. Before I get into the next phase, which is going to be color balancing and adjusting, we'll just clean up our sequence a little bit here. Now that we've used these three audio elements for syncing, we're done with them. So what the idea was to get us ready for our master audio, and our video is now synced to that master audio. So a couple ways we can do this. If you're ever not sure, you could always mute using this M button beside the audio tracks, and then it won't play. Way cleaner and way more organized if you actually just delete those tracks. Okay, so if you notice, if you select one of your video clips or audio clips, they are linked together. So we don't want to get rid of our video, but we do our audio. So what we'll do is either right click or control click on your track and scroll down a bit, and we'll find the option for unlink. Okay, so we'll unlink that, and I'm going to do that to the others as well. Control click, unlink, and this one up here as well. Control click, unlink. Okay, so that allows me to select the audio. If you can see, I've just made a selection box to select those three audio clips. You can also do that individually if you're more comfortable this way. But I'm going to select all three, and notice that the video track is not selected because they are unlinked. If you're ever working with unlinking tracks, just be mindful that as soon as they're unlinked, they could become out of sync very quickly if you were to move things around. But in our case, we've already created the location exactly for our clips to work from, and we just want to clean things up. So I'm going to hit delete, get rid of that audio element. There are cases in which you might need to get that sound back, and there's a way for you to bring that sound directly synced up with your video clips as well. So another advantage of working with Premiere, nothing has gone forever. All the source information is still over here in our media bin. Okay, we've cleaned that up. If your master audio track was already in audio 1, that's great, you're all set. But I prefer to move it up to audio 1. Mine is down in audio 4. Again, just for cleanliness and being able to have an organized sequence while I'm editing. A couple ways to do this. You can very carefully click and drag. If you notice, Premiere has a feature where as I click and drag this up into the audio track I want, is creating a snapped line for me. So it's holding on to that position. It would be really easy to get this out of sync doing that. So be mindful to use that snapping feature. Another alternative to that entirely, if I were to undo that, is that you can right click in your audio tracks over here. So in an open area, you can right click in there and you'll get a bunch of options for your tracks in your sequence. This is where you could add tracks manually if you wanted to, but we can also delete tracks. And what I'll do is I'll delete track here. Don't delete video track, delete audio tracks. And I'm going to select all empty tracks just to make it simpler. Say okay. Okay, and all that did is just get rid of everything else. Again, you might need more than one audio track for your edit, especially if you have problems with the sound, or if you're adding sound for an intro feature in some way. You'll need more than one audio track, but for now, we can always add those later. So for now, this makes things nice and organized. Okay, so I'll drag that audio window back down. We are not worrying about sound now for a little bit while we focus on our visual elements here. Okay, so I'm going to drag this down a little bit more so I have a little bit of a bigger preview window because we're going to need to get our eyes on this to focus on color. Okay. Okay, I'll shrink this view a little bit. I've got my tracks to work with here. Okay, so I'll start with camera 1, which is our sort of master shot that we can always cut back to as needed. So to do that, I'm just going to use my eyeball feature and hide tracks cameras 2 and 3 so that I can just see camera 1 for now. Okay, so to do color balancing, what we're going to do is apply an effect, essentially, onto our visual clips. That effect is called lumetri color. If you go up to your either window and workspaces, or you can go to your panels icon here, what we're going to want to put this on is, I'm just going to click on effects. There's lots of ways to organize your windows. You can open up the lumetri color totally separately if you wanted to, but this is a nice convenient way that I tend to use to do color balancing. Okay, so as I click on the effects view, it gives me access to my effects panel, and you can see lumetri color is a built-in panel in the effects workspace. So I can use this pretty simply and directly. If I want more space for that, I can always kind of pull my window up and see things a little bit better. Okay, so there's lots that Premiere can do for color. It can get quite advanced. What all we're going to focus on is the basic correction option that is within lumetri color, and I'll go through those points that are useful. And okay, so as soon as we, first of all, I'm highlighted on camera 1, so I know that in my effect controls window, that is all those parameters and aspects are related to that clip alone. Okay, so you'll notice as soon as I'm also going to shrink this down a little bit. There we go. As soon as I make any change to an effect at all or color here, you'll notice that the lumetri color effect then is automatically applied to the clip, and it will appear over here in the effect controls. So it's the same information, it's just in 2 windows, which is really useful to be able to access parameters if you need to. Okay, so I'm working on camera 1 color, and I'll show you a really quick first step that tends to work well for these projects for the way we shoot. And it's to do an automated white balance check. Okay, so if you click on this little eyedropper tool next to white balance, again, we're in basic correction tab within lumetri color. What we can do with that, if I click on that, I have an eyedropper tool. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to choose something within this visual frame that I want the program to read as pure white. Okay, and that's what white balancing is. We've already set our white balance when we've shot these performances with our cameras, but of course nothing is perfect. So if they're a little bit inconsistent, that's what we can do this post-production color work for. Okay, so I'll just do as an example, let's say I'm going to go up to Pat's hat here and say I want that part of the hat to always be white, and we'll see what it gives me for my other settings. So if I click there, okay, our shot is pretty good in terms of white balancing from the start. If you notice, I just clicked to use that white of the hat, and a few changes have automatically been made here to my temperature and my tint. I'm not stuck with that, but the white balance automation is a really good starting point, a place to begin, and then you can mess with it and adjust it. Color balancing also, I'll say, is getting into subjectivity here. There is a way to get properly the best white and allow all other colors to sort of set around that white, but it's subjective. It's up to you to decide if you want your images to be a little bit more on the cool side, a little bit more on the warm side. Let yourself be a little bit creative and flexible with how you color balance your shots. I would say that consistency is important unless you're intentionally changing the color balance between shots for a creative style purpose, which is totally fine as well. You could cut to a shot that's black and white, for instance. But if the goal is to be a little bit transparent in the style and kind of serve the performance, you want all 3 of your camera shots to be consistent, regardless of what family of colors you choose. Okay, so I've just selected that white of the hat. I can adjust things a little bit just to see what I get. There's a couple ways to do this. I can click and drag my slider. I can put something in numerically, or if I click and hold over my number here, I can drag to the sides while I'm holding and start to see some changes in real time. So if I change my temperature way up to the orange, we can see what we get. all the way down to the blue, see what I get. So you can tell that somewhere in the middle is where we want to be. And again, I can start to kind of trust my eye on that. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. Tint, I will take a look at if I change that from green to magenta. We've got tint all the way to the green, all the way to the magenta. Somewhere in the middle is where we'll want to live, but there might be little minor adjustments that you find are useful to get the colors the way you want. Okay, moving on from those, I'm going to slide down here, scroll down to the light option. So I'll open up that light menu. And we've got a bunch of stuff that relates to exposure, essentially. So this is not related to color, but rather your shadows, your highlights, your gray range, essentially. So I find that the exposure tends to, as good as we do with our settings for shooting, if we bump the exposure up, it tends to give a little bit more light, life and light to the shot. So I'm going to boost that up a little bit. Again, if we went too far, right, we'd get completely blown out, or down, we're completely grayed out. Again, this is all really fun to work with. So it's a style choice where you want to be with this. I'm going to boost the exposure just a little bit to brighten up our colors. I personally tend to skip contrast, keep that right at 0, because essentially affecting highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks is another way of controlling contrast, but doing it with a little bit more precision. Okay, so if I go down to my highlights, I'll look around for my whites. Okay, so the white of the hat, the slate, maybe bright glares off of the whiteboard in the back. Anything that you can see as white, you can decide if you want those brights to be a little more punchy, you might want to boost up highlights just a little bit. Same for shadows. Now, I like to talk about this almost like traditional photography exposures. A really healthy image always has a darkest dark, a black that your medium, the darkest black that your medium is capable of, and a white, the brightest white that your medium is capable of. And then you know that you're getting all the range of details that are possible in between. Okay, so if you can use highlights and shadows, and similarly your whites and blacks to adjust that. So I'm looking in areas of shadow, for instance, within this bookshelf in the background, maybe the black of Pat's stripes on his sweater. Anything that is meant to be dark and not have detail in it, essentially just black. I want to take a look at that while I'm adjusting my shadows and my blacks. Okay, so if I drop shadows down, if I go too much, looks like contrast starts to take over and I lose detail in areas that I would like to keep detail for a good exposure. But I can make them a little bit stronger by knocking them down a little bit. And similarly to the whites, let's say if I boost that up too high, I get essentially a kind of a glare. I lose detail in highlights, and I don't necessarily want that. I want a little bit of detail in those highlights, but I still want the whites to be nice and sharp. The blacks, you'll notice, is a good way to check. If I were to boost the blacks all the way up, this is what it looks like, essentially. You're just weakening all of those black pixels, so you get a really gray washed out type of look. If you go too far to this side, again, it's a little too high contrast. You're losing details in areas that you might like to maintain it. But I tend to boost my black pixels down a little bit into the negatives, just so I can make sure I have a nice rich dark somewhere in my shot to work with. Okay, so those are the basics that I use to go for these shoots, just to get things close. And again, that's subjective, and I haven't quite done this properly with this shot yet to my liking, but those are the steps that I would take to get the color correct.